I often think about what perfection means. I've come to the conclusion that perfection is when a piece of art transcends and towers over your soul, looming over you throughout your whole life. Similar stories then attach themselves to that obelisk, acting as an inescapable beacon for all others. The Two Musketeers event in Genshin is like that, except if you were at the bottom of the tower and it was on fire after someone shit all over the place. The Two Musky Rears event is a black hole of time and pixels that sucked my eyeballs out of their sockets like a cheap eye doctor in a red light district. Let's first explain what happens in the event to catch you up, so I can explain the deadly writing sins that make up this rancid pyre, and I have some important questions for you along the way. The quest begins when Xavier tells the pair that he's adapting a novel named The Two Musketeers into a film of the same name for an upcoming film festival-related competition. However, his investor, named Morris, is unable to provide the funds that he promised for the production. So the Traveler and Paimon decide to see if there's a way that they can help. In the meantime, they all meet up with Ayaka, Ayato, and Yoimiya, who are here as a cultural exchange of sorts to make more connections with other countries and to film Xavier's movie. They agree to help with the funding, and together with the Traveler, they bring together a ragtag group of characters to help with the filming. A woman named Chiori is doing the costumes, Farina is convinced to direct, and Ayaka will star. Also, there's these two randos who exist. A captain of a patrol and surveillance unit named Chevreuse is brought on to help with proper musket training, but ends up being asked to star alongside Ayaka instead. Chevreuse is actually investigating murders, which we come to learn have been performed in the same ways as the ones in the book that the film is based on. They continue to investigate and come to learn that the author of the book is responsible for the crimes, but not solely. As the film begins to wrap production, Chevreuse captures the other perpetrator of the murders, one of the two Randys hired onto the film, as she deduced that this woman and the author of the books worked together to try to murder the investor, Morris, because he's the one who killed their mother. Chevreuse declares that murder isn't a part of her justice, captures all parties involved, and then the film wins the film festival. Also, Xavier then names his production company after the movie, which is like now based on actual murders? Like, what the fuck? If it wasn't clear from how quickly I retold this event, like I always do, this quest feels like molasses. So let's hold on to this video of white noise I found for a second to really indicate how the quest felt. This quest is 5 acts. Compare that to the 3 that we got with the last event, which I declared in that video that event was paced very well, and I stand by that. I don't think there were very many fillery or meandery scenes in that last event, but man, I'd say like 60% of this quest was filler. I want to make it clear though that pacing isn't just this thing is long so it's paced poorly, or well, this thing is short so it's me because I'm 5'7". Look, that's the average height. Instead, good pacing is when new ideas and developments in a story are introduced rhythmically. It's like a conversation. It's a back and forth process, and poor pacing feels like if someone were to drag a conversation on by never letting you talk and just bringing up random stories. Like, you know, that one time you left the stove on. You know, like, come on. I don't need a fucking sermon about an accident that I did, okay? I know that the whole apartment building burned down and everyone died, but do you really have to keep bringing it up? Oh my god. The poor pacing of this quest really stems from the disjointed elements that make up its structure, at least to me. How much does pacing matter to you? The quest's main plot focuses on Chevreuse and the murder investigation. It's essentially a character quest about her, but the moments involved in the investigation are few and far in between. Instead, we spend a large portion of this quest on the set of a movie, or talking about the movie, or doing one scene where you actually do operate the camera and then never do it again in this quest. What the fuck was up with that? Based on the description I gave of the quest, I'm sure some of you who didn't play it would assume that the filming of the movie itself plays into the larger narrative of the murder investigation. I mean, the play is basically a rendition of what the murderers were planning, written by one of them. But you'd be surprised to learn that, well, no, the actual filming of the movie only minorly impacts the investigation. The murderer who works on the set says maybe like, I don't know, a line of dialogue, and that's all we hear from her until the end of the quest. As I'm talking about her, I can't remember her name, but also can't be bothered to look it up. And it's not from like being lazy, but because I genuinely think she's an afterthought in this quest. The quest itself does nothing with her, so why should I bother to occupy space in my brain to a character that doesn't really exist? The filming itself then ends up being relatively pointless. Sure, you could argue that the scenes that you view in the event tell you what the perpetrators likely experienced when they were younger and experienced the loss of their mother. But the issue is that it's vapid. Their mother was killed, thus they want revenge. That's it. Yet we spend so much time on this set in scenes that end up saying nothing more than that. Scenes that are about the lives of characters that we don't get to know or understand by the quest's conclusion. It's the plot equivalent of what I spoke about regarding Star Rail's character usage in its latest arc. A filler plot is one that takes up time, but doesn't serve the larger narrative. The fact that you can easily remove like the entire filming process of this quest and just leave the Chevreuse investigation moment, and the quest is like 99% the exact same, is pretty baffling stuff. Imagine a story like a meal on a plate, and filler is like when a fucking fly plops into your soup. Like, is the fly edible? Sure. I'm sure there will already be comments about how people enjoyed the filming moments, or liked the dialogue, or the characters in those scenes, or whatever. But that doesn't mean it's actually an edible portion of the dedicated main course. I myself have fun with quests that are just characters hanging out, like having a good time. But that's not what this quest is, though. It's trying to be something more than that. I'm not allowed to spend time with Ayaka talking about her acting or directing characters I know in a movie or playing around with lighting or whatever. Instead, this quest forces me into the investigation because that's the main plot of this quest, to solve the murder. But nothing with the scenes on set actively advances that investigation at all. How much does filler matter to you? Why do I keep hearing this buzzing though? Oh wait, those are the characters in this quest. For a quest about filmmaking, the entire ensemble here is set dressing. Ayaka, Yoimiya, and Ayato all make return appearances here, and some after a long stint of silence, like Ayato. He's basically gotten nothing of substance for years, so I was excited to see his inclusion here. Yeah, he gets forgotten about, not used, has no point, and could be deleted from this event altogether. The inner soul gasp that I yelped when Ayato ended up being shafted here was immense. I think this is the first named character in an event that legitimately has no reason at all for being here, and then they're just dropped. That almost goes for every character except Ayaka, sorta. In her story quest, Ayaka spoke about how she loved to travel, and in a return appearance even wears Fontainian clothes as a sign that, again, she wants to learn and experience more of the world. So when she's able to step foot into Fontaine and see and learn a whole new culture, it should really have been made into a larger moment. She learns that, well, she's actually really good at acting, and it's likely due to the acting that she has to constantly do in her own life, the thing that she says she struggles with in her own character quest. All of this proves that the film festival portion of this event really should have been a second Ayaka character quest. It could have hit on the same themes as her original quest and furthered on her character in a natural way, and allowed us to explore a new side to her. Instead, once we learn that Ayaka is a good actress, that's kind of all we get for her. It's like she's in the rearview mirror in this quest, being accidentally left behind like Kevin McAllister. The quest hits on fun ideas for her, but then just doesn't explore any of them, because we have to focus on the investigation aspect of this quest first, a part of this quest that acts like oil and water with the filming itself. These elements, then, of the whole quest lack depth, because nothing is explored more than an inch deep throughout the entirety of this quest. How much does depth matter to you? So let's talk about the Chevreuse side of this event, the main plot. Chevreuse is basically a special officer of Fontaine, one who initially lived in the underground, but rose up the ranks in the guards to become a musketeer. She also looks like she was designed in like RPG Maker. We gotta give her the hat, we gotta give her the patch, we gotta give her the headphones. But really, Chevreuse as a character is kind of just whatever to me. The investigation aspect of this quest wants to act like a character quest for her instead of Ayaka. So we go and investigate the crimes at hand, but The investigation is more like Chevreuse telling us things she already knows and piecing them together on her own. Aside from a scene where we learn that someone underground was training with a weapon, we don't actually piece together any new information with her because, again, we don't actually have the full puzzle here. This quest's premise kind of reads like a Sherlock Holmes adventure. The filming of a revenge story as it becomes reality is a fun idea. But what excellent detective stories do so well is present everything to the viewer so that they can piece the mystery together before our protagonist can. Here, though, there's nothing given to piece together besides this wing. Oh wait, no, that's from The Fly. In a weird way, the quest is so poorly written that I actually think that you can clearly tell what's going to happen early in the quest. Morris gets like a weird focus for the first minute of this quest, and the two Randys that are hired onto the filming feel so out of place that when you hear there was a murder, you know it had to be from one of them. So then what's important here? Well, Chevreuse, who we'll talk about in a bit, but the other important points to this quest, based on the plot, are Morris and those who he's wronged. The Randy working in the production and her author brother. This cast, even though it's bloated, has really only like 4 central characters. With a 5-act structure, you'd think we'd have enough time to fully flesh them all out. The last event I spoke about had about the same cast size, and with a much shorter time, but it allowed us to learn and understand all of them in deeper and poignant ways by its conclusion. Here though, the focus is so broken because of the filler portion of the quest, we spend almost no time with 3 of the 4 central characters, mainly the characters crucial to the actual investigation at the heart of the plot. So the filming portion of this quest is essentially filler, aside from Ayaka and her larger character development in Genshin, and the investigation portion of the event is bare bones, telling us nothing more about those at the center of its plot, other than that they exist and that they're mad at each other. So it begs the question, why the fuck does this event exist in the state that it does? Why is it told like this? Why is there an investigation at all? Or a filming of a movie? Or the inclusion of these characters like Ayato who doesn't matter? It feels like a story Mad Lib where someone pulled situations and characters out of a hat and had 30 minutes to make the thing semi-coherent. So this story doesn't work as it's currently structured, having an oil and water approach to its A and B plots where they don't fit into a larger whole because one is filler to the other, meaning we don't get a true focus on either disjointed side. It doesn't work with its pacing because of it. It doesn't work at the analyzing of the Two Musketeers or the actual people they're based on. It doesn't work as a mystery to piece things together, and it fails on all of its cast. But does it fail Chevreuse? At the end of the quest, after Chevreuse pieces together things off screen, she decides to not kill Morris like she was asked by the author early on. Yeah, the author asks her to kill Morris after he tells her about what Morris did to him and his sister. Chevreuse is a cop because she believes in justice, but we never get to know what that justice even is. What her justice is. We know it includes not murdering people, but like, why? That may seem like an obvious answer, but it's not. There's no introspection in this event for what drives Chevreuse, only that we know that she's steadfast in holding the wheel of her life. We just don't know why she's even driving to begin with. Her stated reason is that society couldn't operate if everyone acted according to their own justice, that she cares more about order and the rules than any other principle. She's a quintessential cop and a follower, but just this statement, that society's rules are more important than her own principles, really parallels this quest in general. That really, it's not about the quality of this particular quest, but rather, it needed to be fed to the masses to keep the system going. This is the type of benign subjectivism that relegates interesting and worthwhile discussions into empty symbolism. It's the same sentiment when people claim, well, art is subjective, so you can't say if something is good or not. It misses the point of subjectivity entirely. Subjectivity doesn't mean something can't be measured. It just means that there are different formulas to reach that answer. Perfection, to me, is that magnificent tower. To someone else, it's their own monolith. Subjectivity isn't saying there's no tower at all, but rather, you get to choose what makes up yours. You gather the stones to create the building blocks in order to craft perfection. That's subjectivity. My tower is a construction of good pacing, character usage, character writing, thematic cohesion, and on and on. So while this quest has virtually no stones building it up, I think it serves as a cautionary tale still. Unlike Chevreuse, analyze why you believe what you believe. Truly think about what good art and good stories means to you. And don't take that for granted. So I'll ask one final question. What does a good story mean to you?